needs none of it.
That's right there.
Well, the bad part is this is like just my portable stuff. I got more stuff at home, but
He's just 40 grand off.
well, hey guys, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for letting me come talk to y'all about POTA and portable operations. This is one of the things I've just enjoyed about ham radio. And so again, as Ray said, I've only been a ham for 10 months, so I have a lot to learn, and I've been very eager. When I find new topics, when I find new hobbies, I do everything I can to consume as much knowledge as I possibly can about them. And so I've kind of done that with ham radio, and I've really enjoyed it. But what happened? Oh, there we go. So what's great about ham radio? Mobile, portable, base operations. Some guys go into INCOM. You've got global operations, all DXing. Guys got stretch all over the globe. UHF, VHF, HF communications. We got analog and digital stuff. We've got DMR. We got D-Star. I know we got a bunch of guys doing FT8 and FT4. APRS, Packet, WinLink. I've got a bunch of friends that do a bunch of that stuff. That's what's great about ham radio. There's something for everybody. And that's what I've really enjoyed. We were talking about doing satellites earlier, and I think satellites are cool, and I really want to do satellites, but I got so much other stuff. I don't have time for satellites right now, but it's one of the things I want to try, But I fell in love with portable operations. And so I kind of want to show of hands as we go down this list. Who here at their QTH got a computer-driven SDR, full waterfall display, talking like flex radios and stuff? Who's got that kind of stuff? Who's running a kilowatt or better at their QTH? I knew there'd be somebody in here. Who's got a 100-foot tower, maybe even a 40-foot tower? What about multiple beam antennas? Somebody's probably got a 40 meter beam sitting on top of a tower. Maybe you've got air conditioning. Maybe you've even got a comfy chair. Yeah, you don't get any of that with portable operations. So just to give you a heads up, portable operations, you're working off your tailgate. You're working off of man, I've worked off of all kind of stuff. Worked off the back of my wife's Explorer that we did in Tennessee. I found a little hole in the ground to sit down on the dirt and work, even DX contacts off of that on a 5-watt QRP rig. So yeah, this stuff right here, you don't get that with portable ops. But so what's POTA? POTA stands for Parks on the Air. So it has its roots in worldwide flora and fauna. Some of you guys remember that. That was a little before my time in ham radio. But it was getting people out of their QTH, getting people outside, going to parks. They kind of had designated parks. So it kind of was rooted with worldwide flora and fauna. And then 2016 happened. So ARRL sponsored the National Parks on the Air special event. And it was basically like a field day type event. It was going to be a one-time thing. And ARRL kind of had some rules around it, pretty loose rules around what was going to take place, but basically they called it National Parks on the Air, and it was a special event. Well, then you fast forward to 2017, and Jason Johnson, W3AAX, him and a bunch of friends got together, and they were like, that was a lot of fun. And now we want to build some nice rules around this and build this organization. So a year later, they launched POTA, what it is today, and in 2018 they formed the nonprofit, and that really solidified what POTA is today. They built a committee, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, built a committee, and they started doing building rules around it. So now there's really cool rules. I like it because the rules are very easy to understand. It's not just pages and pages, and you're reading it and you're like, I don't even know what half this stuff is. The rules really make sense to it, and so I do enjoy that. So yeah, so where's POTA now? The nonprofit really firmed its longevity. It's going to be here to stay. A lot of people believe that, I know some people argue about this, but a lot of people believe it revived the HF bands. Like the HF bands were dying 2016, 2017, 2018, and now people are getting on the air. And like right now, you get in on the weekend, and I mean, it's just POTA nonstop, people calling out CQ POTA, CQ POTA. So it's really been a revive of the HF bands, which has been really nice. But you're talking 500,000 participants. Now it's between hunters and activators, but 500,000 participants as of this year. And that accounted for 9 million QSOs logged. So that's POTA. So who here has hunted on the weekends, anybody done hunting of POTA sites? So you're out there, people calling CQ, and you're finding people. The nice part about that is you can do it from your QTH, which is great, but it's basically field day every day. I missed field day. Last month we were traveling for a big family vacation. I missed field day and I was really bummed. But while y'all were doing field day, I was actually in Tennessee at the Smoky Mountains, doing POTA in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. So I was on the other side of the country. But if you don't have a POTA account, go to POTA.app. That's the main website. It's POTA.app, www.pota.app, and create an account. It's pretty easy to create an account, put in your call sign, get all of that done. And for anybody, like if you're wanting to write this down or take notes or whatever, we're going to publish this on the group's IO page and stuff like that. So my whole presentation will be published. So you don't have to like try and scribble everything down as we go. But go create your account. Pretty simple to create an account. Doesn't you create with anything else. There's only two positions to play, guys. So hunter, that's any licensed amateur radio operator, and you're hunting from anywhere, right? You're hunting from your base station, your QTH, you're hunting from another park, which would be called a park to park. You're hunting for mobile. I was actually activating Sam Houston National Forest right down the road, and I was on 10 meters. This was back October, November, and I'm getting a couple contacts. And I mean, some of those nice scratchy contacts. You're picking people out of the weeds, and all of a sudden, boom! And I look over, and I'm like, I thought somebody was sitting next to me. And this guy, he's like, yeah, I'm on Spring Steuben or whatever. And he was like 3 miles down the road from me on his 891 in his car. And I'm like, it kind of blew me away that somebody could hunt POTA for mobile, but he hunted me POTA while he was driving down the road, which I thought was cool. Come on. There we go. So activator. So activator, that's actually going out to the park. So you find the park you want to activate, and then you go set up your equipment and you're doing your park activation. Jumped ahead a little bit. So that's you're actually setting up your activation, and find the park you want to activate. There's a lot of things that can go into that, but again, find your park. You're dragging all your equipment out, and we're going to go through some of this equipment and talk about different types of activations and things like that. I know a lot of people don't necessarily learn by someone standing up here talking or even talking and a PowerPoint. You learn by hands-on, you learn by seeing. And so I brought a lot of equipment, a lot of my mobile and portable equipment, just so you could see it, play with it, ask questions about it. Like, hey, well, how does this work? How do I do this? I found it interesting because I was talking to another guy on the radio, and he was like, he knew the big picture of POTA, like, hey, I'm going to go to a park and I'm going to activate. Like, I get it. Like, that's what it is. He's like, what do I actually do? Like when I get there, like what do I do? And so we're going to talk about that. And so I thought that was interesting. Like he knew the big picture of it, but didn't really know like what buttons am I pushing? How am I doing it? What am I plugging in and everything else? So there's a little bit of a delay. Yeah. So when you go to the POTA website, it's a little grainy to see on here. When you go to the POTA website, you're going to see spots. And so it shows you 1 minute ago, the activator was Whiskey 2 DON. He was on 14055 on CW. He's in that park, which is in California, and someone spotted him. Well, actually, he spotted himself. And then you've got this guy, N6 was spotted by K4. So when you're like, I sit on the weekends or I sit in the evenings, especially on 20 meters in the evenings and 40 meters, and I'll sit at my QTH and just open up the POTA website, turn on my HF rig, and see who's out there. And you learn, I mean, all you guys know, like you learn what's my propagation look like. Can I hit California on this band, or can I hit Montana on this band or whatever? And so, I'll start looking up and going, oh yeah, I can hit California on that. I'll dial over to him, see if I can hit California. And if he's calling CQ, throw your call sign out, and he'll get you in the logs. Now, the good part about hunting, you don't have to do anything on the logging side. You can log it if you want to log like Logbook of the World, or you do QRZ log. If you want to log your own logbook, you can. But as far as POTA is concerned, when you're hunting, you don't have to log yourself. The activator is doing all the logging. So as far as the awards are concerned and all that, the activators are doing all the logging. You don't have to log yourself. But these are the spots, and it's going to list them all. There's another view that puts them in tiles. So there's a tile there, tile here, tile here. This is the list of them. But you can just go through the list and start trying to find people. And man, I'll sit and scroll through, and I've got a hex beam at home that I just got. And so I can jump from like 10, 12, 15, 17, 20 really quick. And so I'll just sit and I'll jump around on this page and see if I can find anybody hunting sites. I don't know, that's what I enjoy doing with HF. So that's the spot page. The activation page is, if I'm going to go, this is really, really helpful if you you want to plan an activation. So, hey, I want to go tomorrow night and I want to activate. And so I know tomorrow night I'm going to be at Sam Houston National Forest, which is Park US 4417. I'm going to be at that park at about, and you're doing it in UTC time, so whatever time that would be. I'm going to be there about this time, and you can put it in there, and then people will know to look for you, about that time. It's really helpful if you go to a park that does not have cell service, because when you get to a park, you've got your cell phone, or I log from my cell phone, I log from my tablet. The logging software that I use, as I'm logging it, I have a button on that'll say spot myself, and I can click that and it'll spot me to that page right there. It'll spot myself with a click of a button, but I got to have cell service. If I don't have cell service, you're just going to sit there and be calling CQ. Hopefully somebody finds you. And then you can ask them, hey, can you spot me on the POTA website? Because I don't have cell service. And guys will do it all the time for you. And there's other backup methods. Some people have figured out some ways. If you can get a text message out, because sometimes you can't get cell service, but you can get a text message. Like there's numbers that you can text with a code in it that you can spot yourself. There's ways to do it over APRS. That's a little more than what I want to get into for this presentation. But this is a list of scheduled activations. And so again, you can schedule an activation. You don't have to, but you can. And so, and it's just going to help people find you. So here's the map. When you go to the POTA website, POTA.app, there's a button on there for maps. And it's gonna show you the map. And I don't know if y'all can see it, but see the little yellow dots that are here? So those yellow dots, when you click, like I clicked on that yellow dot and it says W.G. Jones State Forest. That's the one right down the road. I love activating that park because it's right off of I-45. And if I know, like, I run my own business, so I'm all over the county at all of hours of the day and night. And so a lot of times I'll have a meeting at 8 a.m., but then I'll have a meeting till like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I don't feel like running home. So I throw my HF gear in the backseat of my truck. I'll go to my 8 to 9 o'clock meeting, and then I go run over to the park. I activate the park, shut it all down, and then go to my afternoon meeting. So I do that all the time. But this gives you an idea of where the parks are. And so on the next slide, you see the asterisk that was there. It is very, very critical when you're looking at park boundaries to use official maps. Don't always use the POTA map. The POTA will just drop a pin on there. And one of the biggest ones would be like Sam Houston National Forest. When you're looking at the Sam Houston National Forest, it covers like square miles, like 3 or 4 counties. It's huge. And you can activate from anywhere inside of there. If you just look at the POTA website, they just drop a pin on it. And just like, hey, here's the park. It's in this area. But literally that pin is covered by this whole area of the park. So it's hard to see on here just because the screen's a little washed out. But this park boundary is this whole portion right here. Well, the good part about it is it actually spans the road. And so you don't have to hike into the park. You can if you want to. Like if you want to carry a little QRP rig, a little 5-watt, throw a wire up in a tree and hike in, man, go for it if you want to do a little QRP and hike in. I pull off into the parking lot, throw the mast underneath the tire of my truck, throw a 30-foot mast up, and I activate from my truck. The good part about it is there's parking on this side of the road, parking on that side of the road, and parking on the other side of the road. But you can use this map to find what the boundaries are. And so again, Google Maps, state maps, federal maps. If you go to the Sam Houston National Forest, they've got official maps that show the boundaries of the entire park. And again, it's huge. And I just came back from Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, which covers Tennessee and North Carolina. And so what's really cool about it is I went up to the very peak, which is the gap. They call it the gap up at the top of the Smoky Mountains, and the state crosses through it. So you can walk to one end of the parking lot, set up your HF equipment and activate, and then walk to the other side of the parking lot, set up your HF equipment and activate. And it's 2 separate activations because it was in 2 separate states. Like there's literally just a line in the middle of the parking lot, and you're in Tennessee, and you're in, like, you could stand here and go, I'm in both states. You can't activate from both at the same time, but like it's literally through the middle of the parking lot. So again, just watch your maps and make sure you're inside the park boundaries. So let's say you're ready to go. You've got your equipment set up, and you're inside the park. I know I'm in my park boundaries. I'm ready to go, and you have cell service. Then you can open up the ready to spot. So you can say, you click spot, it'll automatically put in your call sign as the activator and your call sign as the spotter. It's going to ask what frequency you're on. Now pay attention, the frequency's in kilohertz. So it's not 14.308, it's 14.308. I've done that before where I'm logging one piece of software and it's in megahertz and I activate and it's in kilohertz. And so one has a decimal and one doesn't have a decimal. So just pay attention to that. And then it asks for the park that you're in. Some of these software has GPS built in. So when you open it up and go, hey, I'm ready to go, it'll go, oh, I see you're in this park. And it'll go ahead and drop the park number in. There's some really cool software for that. And you can put a comment and I'll just say like, come one, come all. Click spot, and then you're gonna show up on that spotting page. As soon as you show up on the spotting page, you can start calling CQ. And people will start looking for you. And I mean, and it's sometimes it can happen quick. Like sometimes you're like CQ, CQ, and then boom, you got somebody on top of you, especially if it's a busy weekend. If you're sitting there hunting for somebody and you're scrolling through, you see somebody pop up on your waterfall because you got, an ICOM or a 991A or whatever, somebody pops up on the waterfall and you dial to them and they're like, hey, you're the first person I've talked to. Can you spot for me? Well, you could open this website up and you're the spotter, so your call sign is automatically going to go there, but you can put their call sign in as the activator. And so you can drop their call sign in if you want, and you can spot for somebody because a lot of times people spot, they don't have cell service. So calling CQ. I know y'all have done this like contesting. Anybody do contesting? Couple guys? Okay. I've never done contesting, but I've been on the other end of it, like trying to catch people doing contesting, but I've never done like I was blown away by the first time I had my ham license and I fired up 10 meters on a weekend and the whole waterfall was solid people. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? But when I show up to a park and I get all my equipment set up, I test SWR, make sure we're good, then I start hunting park to parks. So what I'll do is I'll open up the spot page and I'll look for spots and I'll see if I can ping somebody that's already at a park. And so that way I don't actually spot myself yet. So no one's looking for you on a frequency. I'll go find a park to park. And so what that would look like is Ray's sitting at well, I was able to call home from Tennessee. So you're sitting in Tennessee, and I'm sitting here at QTH, and he's on 20 meters. I'm like, I know I can hit Tennessee on 20 meters. And so he's calling CQ POTA, CQ POTA. And so I grab Ray and go, hey, park to park, park to park. And then we work each other. So I get a park to park in the log. And then once I'm done hunting parks, then I decide, okay, now I'm going to call CQ. Find your frequency. Is this frequency in use? Is this frequency in use? We've all done that.
Not 14,300.
Do I?
Said not 14,300.
Oh,
These guys will run you off in a hurry.
oh, that was literally just typed in. So
That's the maritime net that hasn't been active in 30 years, but there's
oh,
a crowd that hangs out there. If they hear somebody come on there.
Oh. Well, I didn't know that. Well, good to know.
14,300, stay away from them.
Okay. And so when you're calling in, ooh, crap, I bumped it. Oh, we're good. When you're calling CQ, I typically try to make it longer. And the reason that you just want to show up in people's waterfall when you're doing it. So I'll call CQ, Kilo 5, Alpha Charlie Papa, CQ Parks on the Air, CQ POTA from the great state of Texas. And I'm in US Part 4417, Sam Houston National Forest, calling CQ POTA and standing by. And sometimes you got to do it once. Sometimes you got to do it 4 or 5 times. Nick and Evan back there, Evan got his tech and we went and did a POTA like the week after you got your tech, maybe week 2. And he was limited to 10 meters, and man, 10 meters was rough that day. I felt like I hit the lottery because I got my tech back in August, and 10 meters was on fire all winter. And so I had some killer 10-meter contacts all winter long. 10 meters is like it's rough now. But man, Evan was hammering like CQ POTA, parks on the air. And he made his contacts, man. I was pretty stinking impressed hammering them out. But do that, and then all of a sudden, man, it's gonna start rolling in, and it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with it. You're gonna get to break some pileups. There's I don't know. I have a blast with it. I always end each QSO, trade your signal reports. I end my QSO Kilo 5 Alpha Charlie Papa QRZ, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, but maintaining a cadence is really good because when you get into a pileup, people are going to start walking on everybody. And so if you can maintain a good cadence, it's really going to help work your way through your pileups. But that'll end your transmission, and then the next person knows to jump on and try and find you. So it's just, I don't know, it really helps. I enjoy it. And then when I'm done, when I feel like, hey, like I'm done, maybe people aren't coming in as frequently. I got a couple contacts. Now it's been 3, 4, 5 minutes since I got a contact. Maybe it's 10 minutes since the last QSO, and I feel like I'm done. Then I will go QRT on the page, and then I will start hunting parks. And so I always end with hunting parks because typically I'm doing a park activation for an hour to two. That's a typical activation for me, hour to two. Well, if I started hunting parks, those guys are most likely done by the time I finish, and another set of people are now on parks, and so I will end by hunting parks. And so you pick up a couple more park to park contacts, which is really nice. And this delay is killing me. Okay, it's changing on here. Did we lose internet service or? Oh, there it goes. Well, I got the whole page loaded here and nothing's loaded here.
Blame it on Jim. Oh, you're right, you got this.
Well, there it goes. So we're talking about the rules. You get to make all contacts on all bands and all modes. So I've got Ray on here. I hit I'm doing and I'm activating and Ray hits me on 40-meter sideband, 20-meter sideband, then we fire over to digital. He picks me up on 40-meter FT8. And then we grab a 2-meter simplex contact. And so I logged him 4 times in one activation. It could have all been within 30 seconds of each other. It's still 4 separate QSOs. Each band and each mode is a different QSO. So 40-meter sideband, 40-meter FT8, that's 2 contacts. 20-meter sideband, 20-meter FT8, that's 2 contacts. Same thing on 2-meter. You don't get to use land-based repeaters. You do get to use satellites. So most people will say, "Oh, no repeaters on POTA," and that's typically the hard rule is no repeaters. People forget about satellites. You are allowed to use satellite repeaters on POTA. What's interesting is I was reading on one of the POTA websites, on one of the POTA Facebook groups, and there's a couple guys out there that only do satellite contacts on POTA. And I'm like, how? Because a whole transit of a satellite's 10 or 12 minutes maybe. And I'm like, how do you do a whole activation and you're only doing satellites? Well, there are. And so, but that right there all boils down to planning, right? Because it's not like you don't just I can just show up at a park, and even when the bands are rough, like I can still make an activation. An activation is 10 contacts. I can still make my activation. But man, you got to plan it for satellites, and because you got to know I got 3 satellite passes all within an hour. I can be there for the hour, and I can make my. But again, there's guys that only activate on satellites. So I think it's just blows my mind. Pileups, man, I'm sorry, it's just part of POTA. Like we've always seen it in contesting and BD contesting. You got to stay in control of the situation, establish a pattern, end each QC with QRZ, and it maintains the cadence, and it will help stack people in there. A lot of times, uh, let's see, be brief, work efficiently, try and get through. Sometimes all you get's a letter, a number, a prefix, or a suffix. You're like, hey, I got a 5 call sign out there. And I was in one where, I literally had a pile of people and I couldn't make anything out. And I literally had if somebody a 0, give me a 0. Nobody, give me a 1. Nobody, give me a 2. Somebody, I had 2s call it, so you just got to work your way through the pileups. So it's not always about the loudest stations. I don't know. I just find it funny because sometimes you key up and you got guys and they're fighting in the weeds and then somebody just walks over all of them. And sometimes you're like, I want to pull that guy out just to get him away. But sometimes it's not always about the loudest station. Sometimes you pick up some of the guys that are down in the weeds. And we're going to talk about priority next. This is not a hard rule, guys. It's not a rule. It's not in the rule book. It's not in the POTA rules. But it's kind of everybody knows the unwritten rules in baseball, right? These are the unwritten rules of baseball. These are the unwritten rules of POTA. Oftentimes you will see priority given to a park to park. So if someone's sitting there calling their CQ, and 2 or 3 people are coming in, but I'm trying to hunt them from another park, I will call park to park. And because the reasoning behind that is you've got people out there activating parks and you got somebody sitting at home at their QTH just trying to call in and hunt them. Well, if someone's out there, they're burning their time sitting outside, either in the heat or the cold. Typically in Texas, it's in the heat. You're sitting out in the heat, burning your time, trying to get your contacts. And so we'll give priority to a park to park contact. And so, if I call out, I don't throw out my call sign. I'll just say park to park, park to park. And they'll come back and go, hey, give me the park to park. Then I throw out my call sign and we complete the QSO. So again, it's not a hard rule. Don't beat me up over it, but it is, you'll see priority given to that. A lot of times, if you're running QRP, these guys are down in the weeds. And I mean, I'll throw out Kilo 5, Alpha Charlie Papa, QRP. And guys will try and pick the QRP stations out because they just know they're going to have a hard time getting through pileups. And so a lot of times you'll see priority given to QRP. You will also see priority given to mobile. Anybody want to take a chance, take a stab at why we would give someone priority to mobile? Yep, about to lose them. Right, they can be in and out, man. So you'll give priority to mobile. And again, it's not a hard rule, guys. Just sometimes you'll see priority given to those people. So it really is. I feel like it is. But I'm on there's several POTA websites and Facebook pages and stuff like that, and I monitor those and I get on them and everybody asks questions and like some guys will come down on people like, no, you don't do that. And I'm like, man, like I just feel like it's nice. I don't like you said, it's a courtesy. Like I just feel like it's nice. Um, let's talk about logging. So there's a couple logging softwares out there. Ham2K Polo and Hammers is probably the two most popular. They run on phones and they run on tablets. I will typically log from my tablet or my laptop. Depends on how portable I am being at the time. I will typically log from those. Hammers is the relatively newcomer. Ham2K Polo is the one that's been there a little bit longer. I do like the Polo better. It's got some really cool features in it, like the one-click spot. You can just hit one button and it automatically spots you, which I really, really like. Guys, there's always pen and paper. If you're going to be up in the mountains hiking and you're going to be on QRP and you have no cell service, there's pen and paper. And I do have to make a note of that. I don't mean pen and paper. I mean pencil and paper because you will make mistakes. But log it on paper, guys. Just make sure you keep track of UTC. Randy.
Pencil and paper. If you're out there, you're out walking the wilderness and you get into a downpour, you can still pull those pages apart and read the pencil. The pen will run.
Right. Yep.
So
well, this is actually right in the rain paper. So yeah. But yeah, a lot of guys, I follow a lot of guys on YouTube. KI6NAZ is one of them, and he does a lot of POTA and SOTA operations, summits on the air, and they'll hike up and they're on little QRP rigs. And he's got a little antenna, like the whole thing is this big, and that's what he's activating with. And he'll do it on pen and paper because they don't have cell service. So now some of these guys will log on a cell phone even though they don't have cell service, and then when they get back to cell service, they'll upload the log. But if you're going to do it on pencil and paper, make sure you keep track of UTC time because everything's done that way. So a couple pictures. Pulled this off of one of the guys on the web. That's his logging, which I thought was pretty cool. And then this is my logging. So this was back when I was on my tech. I just got my 991A. That's the only HF radio that I had 6 months ago, and I'm logging from my laptop. And I would do that. The park that I logged in had cell service, so I would tether my laptop to my phone, and then I could log. So I really like that. What's a successful activation? 10 contacts. So 10 contacts in the log is successful. Some guys, they're like, man, I didn't get my 10. I only got 8. I only got 9. I only got 2. I'm not gonna upload my logs because I didn't get the contacts. No, 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 no. Always, always upload your logs. Always upload your logs because remember, the hunter is not doing any logging. The activator is doing the logging. So you might be working some park that they don't have, and you didn't upload your log because you're like, man, I didn't make my 10 contacts, but they're waiting for you to upload that log because they were able to make you in the park that they needed or make the state that they need. You were talking, Ray, you were talking about working 50 states, right? So you're working a state and they finally get somebody and that person doesn't upload the logs. So
Have to get better.
nope, nope. So you get the credit for the activation if you made your 10. You don't get credit for the activation if you didn't make your 10, but they still get credit for making the QSO. So always, always, always upload your logs.
Some I found when I was working on my worked off states, I had to work a rare state like 4 or 5 times before I finally get somebody to confirm the data.
Right, right.
Before I can finally get them to upload the data and log in to QRZ or log with the.
Yeah. So this was like,
I just don't, especially on FTA, they don't log in, they just work their contacts and just.
which I don't understand because I have my FT8, it automatically uploads to QRZ. Like the second the QSO completes, it uploads. So I don't understand that. So this was pretty cool. I typically will do a POTA for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. I've done some for as long as 3 hours, and I've done some as short as about 45 minutes to an hour. But we were in Tennessee a couple weeks ago. In fact, right over field day, we were in Tennessee. And if y'all ever been to the Smoky Mountains, it's called the Smoky Mountains because of the clouds. And so it looks like smoke. And so you're sitting on this peak, and we're up at the top of this peak, and we're at the top of the Smoky Mountains, and visibility is, miles. You can see the next peaks way over there. You can see forever, right? And in a matter of minutes, and I'm talking like 6 to 7, 8 minutes, you're seeing the clouds in the valley, and the clouds start rolling up on top of you, and then they roll right through you, and all of a sudden you're standing in the clouds, and visibility, like you couldn't see the parking lot here. Like we were in a parking lot, and you couldn't see the parking lot. Like that's how fast it rolls in, and it's pouring down rain. And so it happens that fast in the Smoky Mountains. So we drove out of that park and we drove around to or not out of the park. We drove out of that parking lot, drove a couple miles up the road and parked in another parking lot that wasn't suffering from that. And I told my wife, I'm like, I want this activation. Like, can we stop? And she's like, well, we were going to make dinner with family and all that. She's like, we got a little bit of time. And I grabbed my vertical that I have here. We were in my wife's Explorer. That's what we drove there. And I'm like, Explorer's a ground plane. It's made out of metal. Sucked that sucker on top of there, plugged the radio in real quick, slid it up and down 2 different 20 meters. And I did a whole activation in like 18 minutes. Like I got 11 contacts, 18 minutes. I'm like, I'm sliding it down, pack it up. I'm like, we're out of here. And so that was my fastest one so far. But did it all on 20 meters. And the funny thing is, it doesn't show it on here because it shows I was in the Smoky Mountains. But one of the contacts I made was actually in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. So he was calling park to park in my park, which that was the first time that's ever happened for me. So I thought that was pretty cool. I had park to parks all the time, but the guy was like, park to park. And he's like, yeah, US 0034. I'm like, no, I'm in 34. He's like, no, I'm in 34. Cool, man. So he was down in the foothills and I was up on the top. So, but it was fun. Guys, going QRT. So when you're done, you'll spot yourself QRT. And so a lot of guys will put in, hey, dinner calls. Thanks for that. Thanks for the check-ins. But just always make sure you spot yourself QRT. A lot of times I'll put in thanks to all the hunters going QRT. And that way it marks it in the spots. It'll like basically gray it out and go, hey, this guy's done with his activation. So they're not hunting you. It's just a courtesy thing like we talked earlier. But just spot yourself QRT. If you can't, because you don't have cell service, ask someone else to spot you QRT. I actually did this one time where I left the park and I jumped on the radio and I was on the repeater here, the reflector here, and I said, oh man, I activated, and they were like, oh, cool. And one of the guys had hunted me from Montgomery, and he's like, hey, I didn't see you QRT. And I'm like, oh, I forgot. So he jumped on and marked me QRT for me. So if you can't do it, ask somebody to do it for you. So export your logs. What are you going to do with those exported logs? You're going to upload them to QRZ or Logbook of the World or whatever other logging program you have. And that way you get credit in your own logging software for it. So I will typically just export the programs I use, have a 1-button export, and it just gives you an ADIF file, upload it to QRZ. I log on QRZ, and so it makes it easy. Then you upload to POTA website. When you log into your POTA account, there's a button that says uploads. And you basically just drag the file, drag it in. It runs through the whole file and goes, hey, you had 11 contacts at this park. Is that correct? You click the checkbox that says yes. Click OK. It uploads it. It's usually instant, and then it's done. So pretty cool. But yeah, don't forget to upload to wherever you log. All right, so what we doing on time? So I got about 2.5 hours. That's about right, Ray? So So let's talk about gear. This is what I've had a lot of fun with. I love playing with stuff and I love building stuff. So ham radio is kind of right up my alley because ham radio is all about building stuff and not always buying stuff. And so I've had a lot of fun with this. So this is what we're gonna hit tonight. And then if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I brought a bunch of the gear so you can kind of look at it and see how it works. And if you got questions, man, just don't hesitate to ask. I love talking about this stuff. So portable QRP stuff, all the antennas. I don't have all the antennas that you can use. I'm going to give us a selection of them, just kind of give everybody an idea of some of the. What I would suggest is the ones I've got on here is a good starting point. Find something that works for you, something that you like to deploy, and then work from there. If you find something you want to do better, do something better. The overarching theme in me, the Eagle Scout in me says be prepared because you're going to get to a park and you're going to go, I'm going to put up a mast and I'm going to drive the stakes in the ground. And the park ranger is going to walk over and go, can't put stakes in the ground. And you're like, okay, no stakes in the ground. Well, I can't put the mast up. I'm like, okay. So then, that happens at one park. So we're going to throw a wire in a tree. But instead, you go to the next park next weekend and you throw a wire in the tree. Park ranger walks, hey, wait, we don't allow wires in trees. So again, be prepared, guys. Practice. I practice at home a lot. I actually have I'm such a nerd. I have a pulley in my tree in my front yard that I string antennas up and down as I'm tuning antennas and just playing with antennas. And I have a chair in my front yard that I sit out there and I will test antennas and see what SWR looks like and test this, test that. I'm making QSOs out of my front yard, but that's what I do. Practice. I want to see what works. I want to see what doesn't work. I want to improvise, adapt, and overcome. That is going to be another theme as you start doing POTA. You're going to find like kind of like your QTH POTA, like your home POTA. You're like, man, this is my park. I love this park. I know everything there is about this park. For me, that's Double Lake Recreation Area, which is about 45 minutes from my house. I know everything about that park. I know like which parking lot I can park in to work off my tailgate. I know where I can park to carry stuff to a bench. I know everything there is about that park, and I love that park. And I can set up verticals and wire antennas, and I can do dipoles, and I can do off-center fed dipole. I've done all kind of stuff.
Is that a separate part from the National Forest? Is it still considered part of the?
Nope, National Forest. So it's not like when you log it, it's not Double Lake. It's National Forest. Yep. And so believe it or not, and we didn't talk about this because there's a lot of, like when you talk about the rules of POTA, you get into the weeds of a lot of rules. There's what's called 2FIRs and 3FIRs and stuff like that. And that is the Sam Houston National Forest is actually park US 4417 and I think US 4422. So it's two parks. It's Sam Houston National Forest and Sam Houston National Natural Area, I think. And so it's two parks. Now you go to Huntsville State Park, and Huntsville State Park is a 3FIR. So it's three parks in one. And so you can you create three logs because there's.
You got to be in the boundaries of all three.
You're right, correct. You have to be in the boundaries of all three. But yeah, so there's a lot of parks that are 2FIRs, 3FIRs, 4FIRs, things like that. So, but improvise, adapt, overcome. Flexibility will reign supreme, guys. Always have a plan B. Plan A never survives contact with the enemy.
Fancy.
Yeah. Yes. When you forget equipment, when you have a radio and you have an antenna and you realize that they have to connect with something and you didn't bring something for them to connect to, that poses a problem. Because tin cans and a string do not work. So let's talk about portable ops. This was one of my first POTAs that I did back in, it would have been November, December. I'm working off tailgate on my truck. You can see my mast. So that's my I believe a 34-foot mast that goes up. And all I had at the time was a 10-meter dipole. I'm on a tech, man. That's all I have, a 10-meter dipole. And that was partly Randy and Charlie who said, whatever you do, build a 10-meter dipole, you'll talk it around the world. And I built a 10-meter dipole and talked around the world. And so that's what I did it on. That was one of my first ones, but that's me working off my tailgate. And then here's a couple more. That's my tailgate setup with my 991A. I typically use my 891 now. My 991A stays at home, and I don't have to drag it in and out, put it in the case, and unbox it and everything else. I run my 891. It's just smaller. I still get 100 watts. But my 991, I call that portable-ish because it's still portable, but kind of not portable because it's a big radio to drag around. I would not want to drag that around like hiking or go drag it to a park bench or something. It works fine. Pulling it out of the truck, putting it on the tailgate. It works great. Take friends along, guys. This is Doug. He's actually on the Zoom right now. November 1 Kilo Bravo, friend of mine. He was a client of mine. I've done a bunch of technology work for him, and he's got a killer home, killer setup at his home. And but he was wanting to go activate Jones State Park or Jones State Forest, and I'm like, well, hey, I'm going to activate Jones State Forest, and so we went and did it together. I don't know if you can see it right back there, but he's got a Chameleon Tactical Delta Loop 40. That's 40 meters through 40/20. And so he's on that on CW. And I'm parked next to him on my 10-meter dipole. And we sat and activated. I activated 20, or I activated 10. He activated on 20 and 40. And so that was a lot of fun. That was my first activation to go with somebody. But we were on separate bands because I couldn't get on the other bands. But you can be on the same band and have a dual operator. And so you'll hear that a lot. Like Ray and I could go, and we're sitting on the tailgate, and we're on 20 meters. And, like, hey, we have a second operator. And so I hand the mic to Ray. Ray gives out his call sign, and they make another QSO. And then we just trade back and forth, and it's a dual operator on one. Dang, that's slow. Oh, so this is me out at Double Lake. The lake is right back there. You can barely see it. And I don't know if you can see it here, but that's my wire antenna right there. Coax going right there. But that's my 891. And all I did was carry that little 20 amp hour battery and my tablet. And so I basically I threw it in my rolling box down here, and I rolled that over there and set up. This was actually the week before we went out and activated. We were sitting at the same park bench. That was the same park bench that Nick and Evan and I were sitting at. But that is a much more portable setup than my 991A with all the boxes and everything else. So working from a park bench. If any of you guys follow YouTube, KB9VBR, this is him. He's working camping overnight, and he'll set up and string up an antenna. He's a huge fan of the 891, which kind of drugged me to the 891. But he's a fun guy to watch on YouTube. He's up in Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota, I believe. So you have Minnesota, but a fun guy to watch. This next slide is even better. This is him working out of his car. Do you know why he's working out of his car? He's working out of his car to stay warm. We don't have that problem in Texas. But he'll but yeah, he'll sit in his car and activate from in his car. He's cool to watch because he has a push button and wears a microphone. And so I use a hand mic to do all my activations. And so he'll wear a headset and then just push a push button to do it. And some guys will actually use a foot switch. If they're going to do it from their car or something, they'll just use a foot switch and they can talk. So it keeps your hands free. But he's a fun guy to watch, antenna building and doing POTA stuff. So I've learned a lot from him. Local guys. So this is Houston POTA. If you get on the Houston POTA Facebook page, it's a bunch of guys that get on there. I believe this picture was Brazos Bend State Park, other side of Houston. I've met some of these guys virtually, like over email and Facebook and stuff. I haven't met any of them in person, but they activate all of the parks all around here all the time. They'll get together and go do a huge activation, and they've got some crazy setup. I was told about it where they've got it like an antenna switcher, and everybody will bring their radios, and then they'll go over and, oh, you want to talk, click, you can talk, oh, you click, you can talk. And so nobody can key up at the same time, and they'll, set up a, do a pretty.
They do like Sheldon State Park.
Sheldon? Yeah, I know they do Sheldon. They were at Galveston Island State Park. I think last weekend a bunch of them went to Galveston Island. Yeah. But it's a cool group. Like I said, I've met a couple of these guys like online. Never met any of them in person.
There's currently a group of the guys on that group trying to activate an island over there on 10.
Okay.
Right off of Texas City.
Okay.
It's only been activated 7 times in its existence.
Holy cow.
Trying to get that one activated, but you need both to get to.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Interesting.
Trying to pull up right now. I'm trying to get
I
there.
thought about putting my gear in my boat and going out to that island out here in the middle of the lake.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a POTA activation, we just.
No, but it'd be fun.
But it's
Yeah.
got a picnic table on it, just.
So talking about islands, if y'all follow this guy on YouTube, his name is Walt. K4 OGO. He just put out this book. I bought it. It's a really cool book for building antennas just because, again, I love tinkering. I love building stuff. But he's up on the East Coast and he's pretty cool. He doesn't run a bunch of ground radials and stuff like that. He sets his antenna about 10 feet from the water and just takes like a 40-foot line and throws it out in the sea. And that's his ground plane is the ocean. And he'll put an antenna like that and talk all over the world, which I think is really cool. But if anybody's curious, like this is kind of my portable setup. I carry the two boxes. One's a radio box, one's a battery box. We'll talk about batteries here in a minute. I made the decision to go with a 100 amp hour battery. Probably wouldn't do that. I had to do it again. I'd probably go with a 50 amp hour battery. This is a big, heavy battery. I could operate for a week on this thing. But I would probably, if I had to do it again, I'd probably go with a 50 amp hour to have a big one. And then I've got this 20 amp hour, which is still, I mean, it's heavy if you're going to hike with it or whatever, but I could hike with this for a couple hours and, not a big deal. But portable setup, and then we'll talk about QRP. And this is my QRP stuff right here. So I can throw this in a bag, a little wire antenna, a little piece of RG3/16 coax, a radio, and a notepad, or if I'm always carrying my phone, if I've got cell service, then I can log. That's a Xiegu or Xiegu, however you pronounce it, X6200. And I've got the 6200 there.
That's the 8 watt.
Say again?
That's the 8 watt version.
Yeah.
6100 put up to 10, 6200 you sacrifice 2 watts.
Yeah. So, and what's cool about that one is actually there's battery built in. The 6100, the battery was not removable. The 6200, the battery is removable. That's what's really cool about this one is you can take the battery out and you can carry multiple batteries. Or what I will do is I have this 20 amp hour and I have a 12 amp hour, and I will just carry that battery with me and plug it in, and I'll run it technically on battery or technically plugged in, and you can get the full 8 watts off of it. But that's a cool, I mean, like you realize that's an entire setup. Radio, coax, going to an antenna, key, logging. He got everything right there. And that's an ultra portable setup. So QRP, we're talking 10 watts or less typically. Battery powered, carry an extra battery. CW digital modes. What's cool about that one is I can tether that to my phone and do FT8 from my phone without having to like carry a laptop, which is really cool from that Xiegu. But that's a K4 SWL. That was his setup that I don't do CW. So, but I thought it was a pretty cool little portable setup. I did want to talk about that Xiegu radio. It's not a cheap radio. It's a $700-800 radio. They have the ones before that are like $400 to $500 radios. But guys, you don't have to spend a lot of money on QRP radios. So these are some very cheap, low-cost options. And this was the second HF radio that I ever bought. I bought my 991A in Belton. And then I saw this, a friend told me about it, and I paid $104 for this. And it's, I believe it does 10 to 80. I'd have to go back and look, but I think it does 10 to 80, but it's the micro SDX. And I mean, like noise filtering, they forgot about noise filtering. They forgot about all that kind of stuff, but it is a cool little radio for $104. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to do that. And that one is 5 watts. One of the coolest contacts I ever made. I was waiting for a meeting. I had just done a POTA activation. And so I had all my gear set up. Well, I tore it all down, threw it in my truck. And, we've all had QSOs, right? That are like, man, that was a cool QSO. And I was on a 10-meter ham stick that I stuck on top of my truck, plugged that radio into it, and I hit a guy on the top northeastern side of Canada on 5 watts. And I'm like, dude, I got chills. I'm hooked. Like, this is cool. So, but these are some cheap radios, guys, like $100, $150, $200. Some very, very affordable radios. You don't have to spend a lot of money on the QRP stuff. So let's talk about, say again?
The G90.
Yeah, and so the other thing, like you're going to find a lot of guys, the norm is going to be, I'm going to run 100 watts. So I'm going to run an ICOM, a Yaesu 891. I'm going to run this, and I'm going to run 100 watts, or I'm going to run QRP. Like that's going to be the norm. And then in the middle of it, you're going to have the guys running Xiegu G90s that are those are 20 watts, right? Yeah, so you're going to have the guys running Xiegu G90s. And I mean, you think about it, like that G90, like for the size and the weight.
Awesome antenna.
Yeah, and the built-in antenna tuner. And like this little Zygu right here, dude, it'll tune a shopping cart if you need it to. You know, like I mean, it'll tune a barbed wire fence. It'll tune anything. If it's metal, it'll tune it.
He
Yep.
actually takes his G90 and uses a fence, shopping cart. He tries to do bleachers.
Yep.
He does a telephone pole, guy wire.
Yep. So
He's a good guy to watch.
yeah, the Zygus will tune darn near anything. So yeah, that's kind of the norm. You'll see the guys, they're gonna run 100 watts, but they're gonna run 5 watts. Like you don't see a lot of people in the middle. Oh, I can do on this, I can do 4 or 5 hours on it.
What side?
Yeah, yeah.
But there's guys that are trying to run 50 watts off a battery doing FT8. That's
Oh yeah, yeah. But again, I have my big 100 watt battery. I could run for hours on that thing, or my 100 amp hour battery. So coax, I got a couple of pictures here for you. I'm more of the stealth kind of guy. I like the gray man approach. I like to not be seen, not be seen, not be heard, that kind of thing. So a lot of times I'm gonna run like just a piece of black coax if I've got a short run to make, and it just blends in with the ground, but it's a trip hazard. And so if you're in a busy park and people are out running, jogging, hiking, they've got dogs or whatever, you're gonna see guys running this. ABR makes, they call it their POTA coax. Messi and Poloni have what they call POTA Flex, and it's coax that has a colored sheath on it. Now I'm cheap, so I can't afford ABR's POTA Flex. So I bought coax and I put yellow sheath on it myself, and then I heat shrinked it on and put my call sign on it and everything else. But I can lay this along the floor, along the ground, running to a vertical, and it takes a trip hazard away from it. Also, this is an RG8X that's bright red. If you can't see this, we have a problem. So again, you got to be flexible, guys. I bought that off of Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah, it's just like the automotive sheet that you put on wires, but you just have to find it. It was hard to find in yellow, but I found it in yellow, and then but I bought this as like a 250-foot spool of cable, and I crimped them all on and soldered everything myself. So, but I do that, and so again, do you want to go for low visibility or high visibility? Is it a high traffic park? Is it not a high traffic park? Half the time when I'm at Double Lake, which is again my favorite park, like I mean, there might be 3 people there, and it's huge, so I don't have to worry about high traffic. All right, pop quiz, everybody. I've got a dipole antenna, conventional dipole, center fed, and it's being fed by 50 ohm coax. What is my expected impedance at that transformer?
15.
50 ohms. That is right. So if I got 50 ohm coax and 50 ohm impedance, what is my transformer? It'd be a 1-to-1 transformer. Good job. I like running wire antennas. That's kind of how I started, was running wire antennas. And so I run them in a conventional dipole, an inverted V, or a sloper. This is the very first 10-meter antenna that I ever made. That was literally just a BNC with those wires soldered to it. I 3D printed all the parts. And so it's, what is that, 16 feet long, 8 feet on each side. And it rolls up into that little pack. And that's what I did. And I love it. This K6 ARK, if y'all have ever heard of these things, I have one. These things are, oh, where'd I put it? These things are amazing. They are tiny. And so the entire transformer with the toroid and the wound toroid is the size of the BNC connector. Like that, you see the crap. Sorry. So you see the BNC connector right there? That's the wound toroid with everything in it. Like that's the whole antenna. And this is I bought one and I had to put it together. I cut it for 20 meters. So it's a 20-meter 1-to-1. But they'll do it as a 9-to-1. So you can do a random wire, or you can do a 49-to-1, and then you can do an in-fed half wave. But these are QRP. They're good for 5 watts. So, but it's cool little antenna, and it's tiny. I printed the winder so I could have the winder for it. So we talked about a tech license on 10 meters, and I felt like I hit the lottery when I got my tech. So this is 58 countries on a tech license on 10 meters. This was what my winter was like. So I thought it was the coolest thing, because everybody would tell me like, oh man, get your general and you'll be able to talk on HF. I'm like, I feel like I'm talking on HF already. But it was just, I had so much fun. One of the things that happened is I learned, one of the guys that's on the Zoom, Doug, good friend of mine, I kept telling him like, I'm trying to build this antenna. I'm trying to get this antenna right. And you go to a park and you got to be flexible, guys. Be prepared. You don't know what you're going to run into. I wanted to get the inverted V like I'm used to. And the way I was parked and the way the park was, I couldn't get the inverted V. So I did like this sloper. I had 1 foot up, like 35 feet up, had the other end, and it's again a 16-foot antenna, and it's fed in the middle. So the coax is hanging down. So instead of being an inverted V or a dipole, it's more like an inverted V like this. And I'm like, this is not going to work. Like this defies the laws of antenna physics, yada, yada, yada. And like I hit like 4 contacts in Venezuela that day. And I'm like, this is so stinking cool, man. Right, right,
It's like this, doesn't care.
right. And so I was telling Doug about it, and Doug, he was just like, you realize everyone runs a compromised antenna at some point in time, and every antenna is compromised at some, and I'm like, okay, now I feel better about all of this. So it was pretty cool. It was a pretty good feeling. Exactly. And I learned that, right? As we do. So, all right, guys, pop quiz, off center fed. So we're feeding this at a 60/40 or 70/30. We'll debate that another time. But it's an off center fed being fed by 50 ohm coax. What is my expected impedance at the end, the transformer? Come on, guys, y'all should know this. Close. 200 ohms. So if it's 200, my transformer is a 4-to-1. So, my wife and kiddo bought me this for Christmas. This is a Chameleon, CHA-OCFD 40, Chameleon off-center fed 40 dipole. They bought me this and it comes with the wire on a wire winder and everything like that. I thought it was a cool antenna, but they bought it for me at Christmas. I didn't pass my general till October. I'm sorry, April. So it sat in the package for like 3 months. And I go open it up and the BNC connectors broke off. I'm like, crap. I'm like, well, I can't take it back, you know? And so I contact Chameleon. I send them a picture of it. They're like, oh man, sorry that happened. We'll send you another one. Well, they send me another one. And so I get it in and I go do an activation with it. Activation goes great. And I get back home and I have it sitting on the table and I move it and it falls from the table to the floor and breaks that BNC connector off. And I'm like, we have a design problem. So this is not my favorite antenna for the design issues of it. Now, what I have done is I found these connectors through DigiKey. I ordered a 10-pack of them and I desoldered all the connectors and resoldered new ones on. So I have new connectors on. So now I have 2 of the transformers. But this one's a QRP. You can see the size of the transformer. It's not very big. This one, I think it will do 40 watts, maybe 20. I don't remember exactly. But it's cut for 40 meters. What's the advantage of a off-center fed over a conventional dipole? Multi-band. So dipole, 20-meter dipoles, cut for 20 meters. 40-meter dipole, we'll do 40, 20, 15, and 10. And so that was the advantage of this, was I could get 4 bands on it. But again, these are a little delicate. So what I did is I ended up printing this one. I 3D printed this. I bought a bunch of toroids off of Mauser. I wound all my own toroids, and I made my own transformer. Cool part about this one will do 100 watts, whereas that one only does 20. And but I was able to reuse the wires that Chameleon had, which was really nice. So that's my off-center fed dipole. I like putting these up just again for the multi-band. In-fed half wave being fed by 50 ohm coax with the feed point on the end. What's my expected impedance? Oh, Randy, if anybody, I thought you would know this. 2,450 ohms. So 49-to-1, that's right. So I have a 49-to-1 transformer. So that's why when you always hear a 49-to-1 on an in-fed, that's why, because you have 2,450 ohms of impedance at the end on a 50 ohm coax. You need that match. So 49-to-1. So then I got on this kick of building in-fed half waves. One of the guys on Houston POTA, what does that look like? Looks like a frog. Look at his call sign. What is the call sign? Ribbit. So he designed these, and it's got a toroid in there. And so again, I bought like boxes and boxes of toroids, and I started winding toroids. I learned how to wind a 214 toroid so I could get a 49-to-1. And you've got your antenna comes out the top, and then the counterpoise comes out the bottom. If you need a counterpoise, you would not need a counterpoise if you're feeding it with like 50 feet of coax. If you're feeding it with like 3 feet of coax or 4 feet of coax, like sometimes I do, then throw a counterpoise wire on it. But that's one of the ones I do. I've got a couple of those, and then I printed some of these as well. And what's cool about them is they have built-in wire winders. So You know, I can cut 66 feet of wire, 65 and change, whatever that 40-meter band is, and I can wrap it up, and it's all self-contained in one unit. And so I have some to show y'all if you're interested. So these are, you want to pass some around and look, you can. So these are some of the ones I built, and I really like them. And again, they're multi-band, right? So I cut, most of those I cut for 40 meters. So I get 40, 20, 15, and 10, which is really nice. What's the biggest downfall over that in-fed half wave over the off-center fed dipole? If both of them do multi-band, what's the biggest downfall off the in-fed? Noise. You're always going to pick up an extra S unit or two off of an in-fed half wave. One of the things that's positive of it, typically they're easier to put up. So if you've got an off-center fed dipole that you're trying to put up in the field, you've got to find a way to get your center point held up and then get your legs out, which typically you're going to have straight or you're going to have an inverted V. So you've got to have a way to get that up in the air in the field, but it's going to be a lower noise option. If you're going to do in-fed half wave, you can tie the in-fed half wave down near the radio and then run that wire all the way out, however far you want to run it. It's a lot easier to deploy, but it comes with a cost of noise. This is actually one that I made. This is a linked in-fed half wave. And so it's got two pieces of wire, both cut at 32, 33 feet. So it's cut for 20 meters. And so if I cut it for 20 meters, that's how many megahertz? 14. So 14 times 1 is 14. 14 times 2 is 28. So it'll do 20 and 10 meters. If I add, it's connected with a little S-meter right here. If I connect this together, then it makes it one 66-foot piece of wire. So then I get 7 megahertz. 7 times 1, 7 times 2 is 14, 7 times 3 is 21. So I pick up 15 meters by doing it that way. But again, in-fed half waves are really easy to deploy just because tie one end down near the radio and get the other end up in a tree somewhere. So. All right, guys, vertical. There's a lot of guys that like verticals. I've been playing with more verticals over the last month. Everybody knows what these are. It's good old ham sticks. It looks like a CB antenna, if anybody ever played with a CB antenna. What's the problem with running a ham stick? It's only half an antenna, right? There's no ground plane. So you got to have a ground plane. So this guy has a mount, and I actually have one that's on a stake. And so I can stake it in the ground, screw the ham stick in top of it, and then I got to put radials going everywhere because I got to have that ground plane. So that's the downfall with a ham stick. It's only half an antenna, so you got to have ground planes. The way we can combat that with ham sticks is they make an adapter. That's really cool. I have one of these. I did not bring it with me though, but you have a post going this way and a post going that way, which means you use 2 ham sticks and it makes a dipole out of it. And so you now have the whole antenna instead of just having half an antenna. So it's really cool. You've got to have a mast to get it up, and you got to have a mast that'll support that weight of those dipoles, But I actually use a piece of conduit. I just use a 10-foot stick of EMT conduit, and I slide it in one of my holders, and I have a dipole up. And I had one. I bought 2 of them for 40 meters, and I played with that for a while. I thought that was pretty fun. But you can get a dipole out of ham sticks. So the Gable, which is what this guy is right here. This was my first adjustable antenna. I really like it. It is manually tunable, as you can see. It does not automatically tune unless I walk over and automatically tune it. But it will tune 10 to 40, and then you can unscrew the coil and add a coil in it, and it'll go to 80. So it's pretty cool. I've used it several times. Again, I used it when we went to Tennessee, set it up on top of my wife's car. I'm like, the Explorer should be a good enough ground plane, and we made contacts. Again, we talk about radials, guys. What are radials? We've got all the wires that we radial out from there. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of trip hazard. Anybody know what this stuff is right here? It is Faraday cloth. So that's what this is right here. If y'all actually want to see it, this is Faraday cloth. So it's actually woven metal in a cloth form. So you just lay that Faraday cloth out, put the antenna right in the middle of it. And I would have thought that you would have had to mechanically tie the ground to the Faraday cloth. However, there are guys on YouTube that have done tests between clipping it to the antenna and clipping it to the Faraday cloth, or just leaving the Faraday cloth there, and have seen no discernible difference. And so just having the cloth there and having the antenna on top of it seems to work. But this has been revolutionary. The funny thing is where this came from, it actually came from window screen. And so guys would put window screen down, the metal window screen. And if you ever worked with that stuff, like it'll unroll once, you know, you don't roll it back up, you know, because it just mangles itself. And so this stuff is great. I mean, it's literally like fabric. I actually bought two pieces because it comes 38 inches wide, it's the size of a bolt. It comes 38 inches wide, and it comes like 100 inches long. And so I put two pieces together and then taped it together. And so I have a big piece of it that I can lay down and put the antenna. Guys have really good luck with this up to 20 meters. Sometimes they will add extra ground planes when they go to 40 and 80, just because you need more ground. But that's the Gable. It's a great antenna. I think I paid 100 something bucks for this. But was my first vertical. Am I doing good on time, Ray?
I think about 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Okay. POTA Performer. I have no experience with this one, but a lot of guys talk really well about it. So this antenna, you would have like a tripod base that would sit 4 feet off the ground, and then the antenna would sit on top of that, and then all your ground radials go out 4 feet off the ground. They don't go on the ground. And but it's a really popular antenna. I just see it as like being one big trip hazard. But it's a very, very popular antenna, but they call it the POTA Performer, the guy who envisioned this thing, and has really good luck with it. He will actually change the direction of the radials to get gain in certain directions. So I thought that was interesting. The next thing on my list, I just got this last week. I bought a Yaesu ATOS. So imagine this antenna that will go to 40 meters, but it's motorized. And so a lot of guys are using the Yaesu ATOS, which was built for a mobile antenna, built to go in a car. They will use it for POTA. And so you'll just put it on your mount. And the cool part, it'll actually screw on this tripod mount, put it on my Faraday cloth, and I can tune it for my 891. And so I just got one in a week ago. I didn't bring it with me today just because it's a kind of a big chunky thing. So, but next thing on my list. Yeah, so that's what this guy does. He's got a whole. I want to play with some of these.
You take the fed, run it
Yep.
from the top of the mast down to the base of the mast, and
Yep. He's got some in here that he does with off-center feds, running them vertical, and gets crazy propagation because you're getting a crazy takeoff angle, and you get some crazy DX on it. And but I want to play with some of those. Yep.
You'd be surprised, need a little matching network, tuner, whatever. But it's gonna be a gain on the
Nice. Always check SWR, guys, whenever you're in the field. However you check it. If you got a rig expert, if you got a little plug-in, if you got a nano VNA, this was me playing in my front yard. I was on 1421, 14210, and I had a 1.17 SWR, and you can see 40, 20, 15, and 10. This is me on some of my homemade antennas. But always check SWR. That's a rig expert. I don't have a rig expert because I'm not rich. I hope some of y'all might. That's great. I can't afford one. I have a little nano VNA, and it does the job. Let's talk about batteries real quick. Sealed lead acid batteries. We've all played with these. Guys, out with the old. Man, they're heavy. Battery voltage tapers, and it tapers horribly. Everybody now is going to lithium iron phosphate. We call them LifePo batteries. That's kind of what everybody calls them. It's a lot lighter of a battery. This battery would be 4 times as heavy if it was a 20 amp hour battery and a sealed lead acid battery. So LifePo batteries are great. I love them. I've got a 12 over there, a 20 here, and then 100 over here. And then here's kind of a quick chart. If it'll load, here's a quick chart. There it goes. Heavy and lighter, tapering voltage. The lithium iron phosphate will maintain a steady voltage, and then when it gets to where it can't do it, it just plummets. Whereas that sealed lead acid will just slowly taper. And as your voltage slowly tapers, so does your power. You're running 100 watts, so now you're running 95. Now you're running 90. Now you're running 80 watts, 75 watts. Power will taper. Lithium iron phosphates are a little bit more expensive, but man, they're not much more expensive. They're just not, you get much longer lifespan than you get out of a sealed lead acid battery. So I just, say again? Oh, they come down a lot. Oh yeah, yeah. And if you catch them on sale, like I'll put price watches on Amazon when I wanted one, and then just boom, it's on sale. Oh, I'll snatch that up. You got to have a battery charger for one. And you got to have a battery charger for every type of battery you're going to charge. So if you're going to charge a sealed lead acid, you need a sealed lead acid charger. If you're going to charge LiFePO batteries, you need a LiFePO charger. So I ordered this one. It'll actually do all of them. So it'll do LiFePO, lithium, sealed lead acid. It'll do all of them. So I can do it with here, and you just select which mode you want. What's cool, what I did about this one is it came like this with alligator clips on it, and I cut it in the middle and put power poles on it. So all I have to do is I can plug it directly into my battery, or if I still need the alligator clips, I have alligator clips. But I just cut it in the middle and put power poles on it so I can plug it into any of my devices. Oh yeah, they certainly come in handy. So, yep. Solar. I did not bring my solar panels just because they're big. And man, the solar panels are crazy right now because they make flexible panels. Like here, the ones I have are rigid panels, so it's like this big, but it's only about that thick. Like they're tiny and they just fold up. But they're very rigid, and so
flexible ones are not very, longevity is not very good.
Right.
Like it's
Yep. And so the flexible panels are cool, and that's what a lot of people are going to. But like some of these panels like that has multiple panels on it, man, they can be like $400 and $500. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yep. And
I watch out for solar panels. Running QRP and very low power output, you got a big, strong silicon cell with no load on it, that thing will go over 20 volts. Say use a charge control. So I have had more than one time, I've had to take a radio, used to be after the radio, right after we went out, so.
yep. So it's funny because number 2, need a charge controller. Always use a charge controller between the panels and the radio. That's actually on the general test. I know because I just took the general test. Panels can be pricey. The panels I have are like 100 something bucks, but they're rigid panels. The flexible panels, man, they're like $400, $500, $600. They're really pricey. Again, they can be RFI noisy. So you might be in a situation where I'm going to go off grid for a week. I'm going to go camping. I'm going to charge when I'm not on the radio. I don't want to plug them in while I'm on the radio because they're going to be RFI noisy. So just be aware of that.
cheap Chinese that were noisy.
Yeah.
I've had expensive charge controllers that were just even worse than both of them.
Right. Yeah.
Charge controller itself, big noisy too.
Right.
Well, that's the charge controllers. You gotta watch out for the noise on the charge controller.
That's what, I actually took a box apart and put my batteries in my charge controller in a separate box to get it away from the battery. And my noise floor went way down.
Yeah, you gotta pay attention to it. We're talking about doing POTA operations. Dude, I've saved some activations. Like Nick and Evan, man, we saved the activation doing 2 meter, 70 centimeter. Every band and every mode gets you a different contact. And so gets you a different QSO that you can put in the log. So don't forget about that. Ed Fong, he's a professor out in California somewhere. He's designed a bunch of J-poles, roll-up J-poles. I do not have one of the Ed Fong. However, I do have the N9 tacks. This is the N9 tacks. This is a 300 ohm ladder line that he's got cuts in, and then he's soldered onto it. And it comes with the coax basically pre-terminated onto it. You don't plug into it. It's all one piece. It's a really cool antenna. I roll it up and I keep it in my UHF VHF bag. This is a radio that a friend of mine gave me and gave it new life, but it's 50 watts of VHF. Like it'll punch through, man. But the N9 Tax is a really cool antenna. The DIY flower pot is this guy right here. I found these plans online and then I built a bunch of them. So this is a 3D printed holder, and then you wind your coax around it, which basically creates the transformer. And so it's essentially a 2 meter end-fed half wave. And so this is just a piece of coax to right here is the whole coax intact. and then you skin the shield off of it and just leave the center conductor going the rest of the way up. So it's basically an in-fed half-wave for 2 meters. And I actually have a couple of those. If anybody wants to take any home, y'all are more than welcome to take them home.
They got plans online, it's called an experimental fire pot.
Okay.
You make it inside a 10-foot piece of half-inch PVC,
Oh, okay.
and there's 2 spots on it that you put aluminum foil around it,
Okay.
gives you 70 centimeters,
Interesting. Okay.
2 meters, 70 centimeters.
So I did the DIY flower pot. I 3D printed a bunch of these, and so I've got a bunch of them in here. Y'all are more, like I said, y'all are more than welcome to take some home. I built a bunch of antennas. If you're here wanting to know about POTA and portable operations, and gear is holding you up because you don't have an antenna, I have antennas for you to take home. The flower pot is cool. I just learned about this guy, the Faraday. Anybody heard about this antenna? So this is the Faraday. This is a J pole, and it's a piece of fabric that has a Faraday cloth on it. So that same Faraday cloth, it's in a J, if you can see the J going down, and it's fed by a BNC connector down here. And so I found this guy online that builds these things. They're 75 bucks a piece, and I couldn't free up 75 bucks, but I could buy the plans for like 20 bucks. So I bought the plans, which comes with all the dimensions, and then I made several of these. And I actually threw this up in a tree last night. I was really bummed. I connected the coax to my Nano VNA, set it in the chair, and I connect the antenna. I string it 40 feet up in a tree in my front yard, and I walk over to the Nano VNA, and my SWR was from 1 to 10 in the range, and I had no SWR reading on it, which means it's over 10, right, was my guess. And I looked again and realized the line was all the way across 1. And when I started scrolling through the Nano VNA, my SWR was 1.08 on 2 meters with that fabric antenna. And I'm like, this is stinking cool. Like, it was awesome. So I grabbed my HT, 5 watts. I could hit the repeater, the Conroe 9.2 machine. I could hit from 20 miles out on 5 watts. And yes, sir. He says it'll do 100 watts. So that's what he says. I mean, 100 watts on VHF. I don't know how you, but he says it'll do 100 watts. But it's a cool antenna. And but that's the Faraday. So I built a couple of those. But again, guys, don't forget about UHF, VHF. This was me in Tennessee on the 3rd floor balcony. You can see I'm on 146.52, 50 watts of VHF. And come on, picture load. There we go. That was my view from my balcony. And that's my little flower pot antenna being fed by that thing. And it was cool, man. I could talk all over the place. It was crazy. So, but guys, don't forget about the 2 meter, 70 centimeter for making contacts. All right, let's run through this real quick. Power pole connections, fuses, check your wire gauge and make sure your amperage draw is good while you're doing that. Does anybody know what this is? Power pole to Power pole to Wagyu. Good job, David. You get one for free. If you do anything with power poles, you need one of these. You absolutely need one of these. If you have your power pole connector to your radio or to your power box or anything like that, and you snag it and rip a connector off in the field, then you're done. Pack it up and go home. This has Wago connectors on the end, and you can just take a bare wire, strip it off with a pocket knife, stick in that Wago connector, and you got power poles back. Great emergency Band-Aid. So I made probably 3 or 4 of these things. Great. So, but David gets one for free for knowing what it was.
You recommended that if you're gonna make your own power poles, get the crimper.
Well, yeah, that's the only way to do it. Yeah. But here's a power pole that'll divide them up, and here's another one that's individually fused. But guys, just watch your power, watch your draw. An arborist throw bag is real handy for doing wire antennas. So
You get Anderson Power Pole brand. Can't buy the Chinese brand off of eBay. They won't connect.
oh well. So this is an arborist throw bag. So it's got a weight, and then it's got 100 feet of line. Great for throwing antennas in trees. I've had this for years that I use for taking trees down. And then I got in ham radio, and I'm like, oh, I get to use it in ham radio too. That's pretty cool. But great for getting that fiberglass mast. We were talking about this earlier, guys. Here's a fiberglass mast right here. This one will go, I believe this one's 21 feet. so it'll extend out, but it's really great. I actually made this little mount right here. Actually made this little mount right here that I can clamp onto the front bumper of my truck. And so I can actually have a mount on the back and a mast on the front, and I can connect an antenna, so I can kind of be self-contained if I need to. And then I've got this one right here. I think this one goes like 15 feet or something. And then I've got a big 34-foot one that stands about that tall and extends out 34 feet. But fiberglass masts are great.
Fly fishing. Amazing.
Yep. So these, I'm putting up the name brands. Well, I'm trying to, if it'll load. These are some of the name brands of soda beams and spider beams, and they can be pricey, man. The ones I got, these were like 20 to 30, 40 bucks. They weren't that expensive. Now my big one, I think, was about 100 bucks. But it wasn't, the bigger ones of these brands are really, really expensive. Yeah, they're really, really expensive. Mast stands, if y'all ever see the stands, this is my favorite. So what I do is I back my truck up to wherever I want to go, and then set this underneath the tire, and then roll the truck onto it, and use this. I set my truck tire on it, and then I can put the mast in it, and it's not going anywhere. Like, I mean, you put 5,000 pounds of truck on top of it, it's not going anywhere. I really like that. Some guys guide them up individually. Some guys have hitch adapters that work. Just guys, sky's the limit. Tips and tricks. We'll blow through this pretty quick. Y'all can, again, we'll publish the presentation so y'all can see it. But these are just some things. Oh yeah, learn about noise reduction. Ray was talking about that. Man, noise reduction can make the difference if you get into a park that's noisy. Not many parks have a lot of power, so you don't have a lot of transformers to deal with. But every now and then you'll find a park that maybe you're sitting next to a transformer, and so you're going to pick up some noise. Other resources. Ham alert. Everybody knows what ham alert is. Raise your hand if you don't know what ham alert is. Dude, Rick, come on, man. Go to hamalert.org when you get home. This is cool. You set up who you want to monitor, and you'll get push messages whenever they key up. And so this is great. So I have this was Antarctica. This guy was in Antarctica over the winter. Unfortunately, over the winter, I was on a tech license, and he was on 20 meters. So I never got to hear him. But there's a buddy of mine, another buddy of mine. This is our call sign. Tim Allen. Everybody knows Tim Allen from Home Improvement. These are a bunch of YouTube guys that I follow, so I have them on there. So anytime they key up or they get spotted by RBN or whatever, then I get a message. So it's pretty cool thing. So you can also set up specific parks, bands, continents. You're like, hey, I need Australia, and you can get a contact off of it. So Facebook groups are really good if you're doing parks on the air. These are the 3 that I'm a member of, and the 3 I recommend. POTA Soda, and then Houston POTA. Reddit, if anybody ever does Reddit has a subreddit for parks on the air. It can be more technical, but again, it can also be a little bit more snarky.
There's a lot of yokels on
Yeah, so there can be.
There's a lot of wannabe comedians on Reddit. They think they're being snarky and they think they're being funny, but they're really just being jerks.
There can be some great technical expertise experienced on Reddit, but you gotta wade through to get to it. Yeah. So, but that's Reddit. But it is a great resource. So. One of the things about portable ops, guys, practice. This is me in my front yard in my lawn chair with my radio sitting there. This is me packing my box, making sure everything will fit in the box. I can get it in there. This is my rolling cart. So I carry that with me, and then we'll typically carry like the radio with me or whatever I'm going to go operate that day. But just practice. Make sure it works. Make sure you can carry it. Make sure it fits. Guys, QSOs are everything. This is my activation at US 442. These were all my contacts. I hit Colombia, and I think that one was Brazil. That was a pretty cool one. This is the one that I thought my antenna was screwed. I was in the inverted V, like sloper. Well, this is not going to work. This is the best I can do. And I made an island out in the middle of the Atlantic, and I was blown away. I'm like, okay, this is cool, man. So, and that's when I was talking to Doug, telling him about it. And Doug was like, everybody runs compromised antenna. And I'm like, okay, I feel better about this. So, but it's all about QSOs, guys. If you want to chase awards, there's awards with POTA. Now the awards are not, you're not getting a plaque. You're not getting recognized by the president. You're going to get bragging rights. That's what you get, Sam Radio. But they keep track of parks you've activated, how many you've hunted, how many park to park contacts you've made. They keep track of all of this stuff. It's pretty cool to see. They've got different awards. If you go to one certain park all the time and you get QSOs at that park and you get 1,000 QSOs, they call it a kilo award, kilo 1,000. So you can get a kilo award at a park if you hunt 1,000 parks. There's what they call roves, which I want to do one. I'm trying to wait till the fall to do one, but a rove is where you you activate multiple parks in one day. And so the minimum is 5, but they go in increments of 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20. So you would actually have to drive to a park, set your gear up, activate it, tear it down, drive to the next park. And it's very difficult to do in this area because everything's so spread apart. And got to have 10 at each one. Got to be successful, 10 at each one. And so I want to do a rove. A 5-park rove is pretty easy because like you can hit Huntsville State Park and it's a 3-fer. Activate one time, you got 3 parks. So then you got to make it over to like, somewhere else and but there's a guy on Houston POTA that last weekend did a 10-park rove in the Houston area. He left his house at 7 a.m. and got home at 8 p.m. And I'm like, that's cool, but it's 100 degrees outside and, but this was kind of cool. When I built this presentation, I started like 6 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago building this presentation. I only had Texas because that's all I never activated. And so when I was looking at the presentation, I'm like, oh, I got to go grab the new slide that has North Carolina and Tennessee because I activated the Smoky Mountains. So, but you can see I've still got a couple to hunt. And it's funny because the ones to hunt are all close by. Louisiana, because it's hard to hit Louisiana on 10 meters and 20 meters and stuff like that. But it was really funny when I was only on 10 meters because if you're looking at the United States, I could hit the swath all the way around, but no one around me because first top's 2,000 miles away. But that's awards. I've got some links in here, guys. There's the link to the actual POTA, link to their docs. Some of the great YouTube creators out there that have stuff, and then the antennas, the UHF VHF antennas. Anybody have any questions? I have, again, if equipment and antennas are holding you up, I have a box of antennas that I don't need to go home with these. So if you want in-fed half wave, if you want 2-meter flower pot, most of these are cut for like 40 meters. One of them might be cut for 20, but they should be labeled. So if you want antennas, come dig through here and find one you like. But if not, that's all I got. And if you got any questions, feel free to ask questions, man.
Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.